Hello, my friends! Today we're going to draw a beautiful rose together. Roses are such complex and fascinating flowers with so many delicate petals and shapes. But don't worry, I'll show you step by step as simple as possible so that anyone can follow along and create their own roses. Let's dive in and enjoy the process. Okay, so we begin with the outline of the flower. In my case, I draw an oval shape for the outer edge and a small circle in the middle. Around the center, we will place the rest of the petals, one by one. Notice how they slightly overlap each other, almost like in a chessboard pattern. This is how the rose builds up. The closer we are to the edge, the wider and more open the petals become. On the outer petals, you can also show a wavy or slightly curved edge to make them look more natural. And of course, don't forget the stem. We draw it carefully, coming out from the center of the flower downward. So, the main idea is simple. When drawing a rose, we always go from the center outwards. Step by step, the petals expand, and that's how the rose takes shape. Now, we can start working on the drawing for the very center. As you can see, I marked the middle part. This is where all the petals will gather. I also pinned a photo reference of a rose above my page. But to be honest, I usually don't copy the photo exactly. I prefer to choose the most beautiful and expressive part of it. For now, I keep sketching the curving petals, placing them in that overlapping chessboard pattern. I'm not pressing too hard with the pencil, so it's easy to erase if needed. And here is what I've got so far. A very rough sketch of the rose. The next step is to clean up the lines and make them neater. Now I go over the same lines again, but this time I make them more detailed. In some places I add thickness to a petal or small details along the edges. And don't worry if your rose doesn't match the photo perfectly. What matters most is the overall feeling and the natural variety of the petals. Right now, it might look a bit chaotic, but that's completely normal. Once we add shading later, everything will come together and look more balanced. Alright, I'm starting to add shading to the flower from the center. At this stage, you can see that I'm shading from the bottom of each petal upward. I use short vertical strokes that go from the base toward the tip. This technique helps create more volume and visually separates one petal from another, giving the flower a natural, layered look. As you may notice, on some petals, I also added a little extra thickness along the edge to make them look more realistic and three-dimensional. These thicker lines act almost like shadows or folds in the petals. Try to keep them clean and white. Don't shade over them with your pencil. They will make the petals pop and feel more alive. This process takes some time because there are many petals, so I work slowly and carefully. I also want to show you something here using this photo. I've zoomed in so you can see it more clearly. As you can see, in the photo there is shading at the base of each petal. That's exactly why I'm applying the shading this way. The center of the flower is slightly darker and we'll add more depth there a little later. For now, our main goal is simply to darken the area around each petal. So, as you can see, in this first stage, I'm shading each petal from the center outward, following the natural flow of the flower. Great! Now that we've shaded under each petal, it's time for the next step. Starting from the center of the rose, I apply very short vertical strokes again, but this time I'm shading from the edge of each petal toward the center. So, if last time we shaded from the base of each petal upward, now we're lightly shading the top part of the petals. This technique helps give the petals a gentle curve and adds even more dimension to the flower. Next, I move to the outer petals, and as you can see, these petals have wavy, uneven edges. I don't shade them evenly. Some areas are darker, some lighter, creating a more natural and random look. This small variation is what makes the petals appear alive, not flat. By repeating this process carefully on every petal, from the center to the outer edges, your rose slowly transforms from a flat sketch into a lively, three-dimensional flower. And don't rush. Gentle, patient strokes give the best results. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become with this technique. Alright, so look, I've already finished drawing these rows. I've carefully refined each petal and added the wavy edges. Now I want to add even more volume to the entire flower. If you look at the photo, you'll notice that the center of the rose and the right side are a bit darker because the light is coming from the top left. So, let's darken the petals on the right side and the center of the flower a little. I also add extra shadows to enhance the realism. Shadows are best done with a harder pencil like 2H so they don't smudge too much. Next, I add stronger shadows on the right side of the rose. Notice that this time I'm drawing the cast shadows from one petal onto another. On the photo, these shadows are sharper and darker, so I try to imitate that to make the rose look more realistic. And here we go. As you can see, the dark shadows beautifully complement the image and give the rose more depth and three-dimensional look. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this step-by-step drawing of the rose. This was a short, sped-up version, just a little peek into my full drawing process. If you'd like to go deeper and learn how to draw this rose step-by-step, I have a full-length video on my Patreon. I'd love to hear from you. Please write in the comments if you have any questions or tell me which plants you'd like to see me draw next. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more nature-inspired art. See you next time and happy drawing! Bye bye!